From the center of this here galaxy, this is ForceCenter now, live on a Friday, 2 p.m. in the Pacific, the best time zone in the world. I'm Ken Napzok, alone today. Joseph Scrimshaw off doing the finishing, more finishing touches on his film, Dead Media. But the big news this week was he announced his distribution deal and a road show for the film Dead Media. More information will be coming from Joseph on that, and we can't wait to celebrate that with him. So look for a venue near you once he announces that. And Jennifer Land, as always, sends her regards, but it's a Friday. She's always got work to do on Friday. So you're stuck with me. You're locked in here with me, and we got a lot to get to tonight. A bunch of topics on ForceCenter now, which is kind of what the original vision ForceCenter now was, kind of a Friday call-in radio show, catching up with tidbits of Star Wars news that maybe we won't cover on the main news show, and hearing from you about our call-in topics. And tonight, the big one, the main one, I want to hear from you about what Star Wars stories are unfinished in your minds, things, characters you wish their adventures were to continue, movies, sequels, shows. I put Acolytes, The Stranger, Chimera on the thumbnail, and I'm sure that will come up a lot. And Leslie Headland was, I don't think anything's going to happen, but was speaking about it recently in the press about people wanting it. And we know people absolutely want it around these parts, and I do too. We'll talk about that, but it could be anything else. Do you want more of Claude? I don't know. Do we know enough about Claude? I don't think we know enough about Claude. Also, we'll be talking a little bit about Tony Gilroy speaking at the Peabodys, something we could cover more in depth, but I just want to highlight that since it was in the news now. And how, in my mind, you have, Tony Gilroy making Andor even more political, which is, almost an inside joke. But it is also what he did. We'll talk about what he said at the Peabody Awards. And George Lucas, aura farming. Yeah, that's right. I'm young. I'm hip. Tucka. I know all the terms. And George Lucas was living that aura farming life as photos came out of the George Lucas Museum. We'll talk about that. And also anything else. Free for a day. I'm here for about an hour. You got me for an hour. What do you want to talk about? Call in and we'll get to it. But before we do that, of course, we are going to unveil our ForceCenter Now character of the day. This means when you call into the show, I don't give a damn what you're talking about. You have to talk about this character first. And if I forget, you have to offer up the information because I forget often. And our character of the day is Chopper. That's right. Chopper, the grizzled war veteran, the grumpy curmudgeon, the astromech droid with an attitude, both in animation and now live action. That's right. Chopper is a multimedia star. What do you have to say about Chopper? What do you have to warn us about Chopper? And should he wear a cape like we determined years ago with Matt Belknap on Databank Brawl? So great answers also coming in. I'll try to grab some of your comments here. If I miss them and you want to, and you feel you've made a point, just let me know by asking me again. Also, thanks to Super Chat waiting for me when I got in here. Nicked 1984. The museum will be an unexpected surprise for many. I cannot wait for the museum. ForceCenter's you've been in contact with some folks there. I have a lot of shows to try to see what we can do to just help cover it and spread the word of what they're doing over there. The celebration of narrative art, which I think becomes more and more important, especially when less and less people understand the art they're consuming and watching, especially when they, debate about it on movie shows and that kind of thing. So let's get to our first call of the day. We got Eli queued up. We got Gwen calling in first because I do believe Gwen wants to call in. And oh, by the way, camera ready. Get your if you want to be on camera, now's your time. If you don't, just turn your camera off. But Gwen's camera ready. Gwen calling back in the show. I believe, Gwen, you want to catch us up with your thoughts on The Mandalorian and Grogu. First of all, how are you? Second, talk about Chopper.
Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. I'm on the wrong tab. I have a delay.
That's all right.
Okay, there we go. Chopper. I have loved Chopper from the beginning. Yes, he's a war criminal, but he's our war criminal. No, I like when I first heard that some people didn't warm to Chopper, like I was like, what? Why?
That was that, you're right. That was out there. And I don't think we here, ForceCenter didn't like him. He was an interesting, he was different. He had a
Yeah.
lot of attitude, and so did so did R2. 3PO had his own attitude. But yeah, you're right. Season 1, there was a little bit of like, who's this guy?
I love that he just straight up tried to murder another droid, and which, by the way, no, that was just straight murder. Like, I
Yes,
I don't. I think that was a dream sequence that other one survived, because
I
I
think you're
think
right.
that ended badly.
I think
Uh,
you're right. I think you're right. But yes, you've as a Rebels fan, you've loved Chopper. Let's see. What
yeah.
is your one favorite? What is your favorite trait about Chopper? Then we'll move on here.
Oh, just that he doesn't take shit from anybody. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, like that. That's just it. I like that he doesn't care what you think. He
yeah.
is who he is,
Mm. Hmm.
and I don't know. I also love that his warbles are basically human words.
Yeah,
Um,
basically Filoni making fart noises, and I love that.
yeah,
I love that. Actually, that's right. I used to call Chopper the fart bot back in Jedi Council days. Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh. Anyways, back to the heady days of 2014. Gwen, thank you for your kind words on Chopper, but what's going on with Mandalorian Grogu and your thoughts?
I freaking adored this movie from beginning to end, and like, and not in a way that like I've heard some, and this is fine if this is where you're coming from, but I've heard a lot of no, it wasn't perfect, and there was this or that. I'm like, oh, this was 2 hours of pure joy, and I was smiling ear to ear like every second of it. And it's
Yeah,
interesting because Mando has not always been my personal favorite flavor of Star Wars. I've had a
I'm with you.
couple issues here and there, but this was just sometimes you just want to go to the theater and have fun in the Star Wars universe for a couple hours, and this was just like I felt like I didn't have to worry about anything with this movie
Right.
as far as like, you know, because usually it's going to see a Star Wars movie, even a lot of the ones that I love, you're kind of like, there's more than a few Star Wars movies that are a little bit of a hot mess at times.
Sure. Sure. Even in
And
good ways,
and
right?
yeah, and that's sort of part of the package, but I feel like this was exactly what they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I got to leave all those concerns at the door and just smile for two
Yeah.
hours. So
Yeah.
it was just a joy.
Yeah. Yeah. What I had said here, and then I said it on Movie Fights, which of course was received wonderfully, is it's not a perfect film, but it's flawless in its execution of what it wanted to do. I said
Yeah,
that the first screening, and I say it now, because that conversation about what's a perfect film and everything, there's like four perfect. Who cares about that? I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the ride and how it made me feel. And yeah, could you add this? Could you add that? Again, boring conversations to me personally. How it made me feel. Big movements in my soul over the center of that
yeah.
movie's warm heart. Did you have things you reacted to more than other scenes in there that we? I don't want to say favorites, but scenes you loved.
Well, throughout so much of the movie, I was just like having like the words I use for this movie are fun, 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 and like that's what it was. But it really the moment when Din tells Grogu to go with the
Yeah,
Anzellans,
yeah,
and he's just sort of fighting what he believes will be his last fight, and the music
hmm
that um that Ludwig Göransson pulled out was
it's the best.
just so emotional.
Yeah,
And it made me
yeah,
realize this was kind of what I've been hungering of, even when I've enjoyed like Mandalorian, incredibly. I've always kind of wanted just to sit with these characters for a while.
mm-hmm.
And Mando has always been the kind of show that like veered more towards like shorter, more concise storytelling. And
It moves.
I
Yeah,
just really loved getting to sit with these characters and have this emotional moment where the whole movie is built up to Mando, thinking that he's
right.
done all that he can, and
Yeah,
he's gonna have to leave Grogu behind. And
yep, yep,
yeah, it was
yep.
just
That's
it tugged at my heartstrings.
Yeah,
and see
same.
what.
That sequence remains a top five for me in the last few years of Star Wars, and moves me even thinking about it sometimes. Yeah, I was chatting with my friend Mark Riley. A lot of you remember Mark. He finally saw the movie because having a 2-year-old makes it a little difficult to see movies. He finally saw it and absolutely loved it, and loved that scene as well, the one you're talking about there. I'm glad you got to take it in, Gwen. I know you're a big fan of animation, but that doesn't mean you don't love Star Wars live action. And this to me had actually, outside of Ahsoka, which has obviously going to have a lot of animation connections, but something about this movie, maybe the series, but I hadn't thought about it that way. But this movie was to me like the vibe of animation done in live action, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yes, I've actually said this since seeing the movie. It feels like a love letter to Star Wars animation,
Well, yeah.
Eh, in a way that it's like it's not trying to exactly copy what animation does, but it just it has that love for it in its heart, and everything
Yeah.
from the appearances of Enbo to Rada. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to Jared and I was cracking up because I was like this sort of, and not that I feel that like the Clone Wars movie was a failure. That's something I'll acknowledge. It's flawed in
It's
my opinion.
it's yeah,
Uh,
it's interesting, but I
but
love it. I've
but
come to love
but
it.
I still love it. But this did kind of feel like if it once you fail, try.
Yeah,
And like in a way that like I just loved that this movie was also about rescuing Rod of the Hutt,
absolutely. In
and it was like it
2026.
felt like vindication
Yeah.
for so many of us who hold that movie close to our hearts. So
For fans
yeah,
of the Punky Muffin, old
yeah.
stink himself. Gwen, thank you for sharing your thoughts on the movie. Before I let you go, though, one of our main topics is Star Wars stories you want to see continue. You have a quick line or two about a story you want to see go on in Star Wars?
I it's funny. I thought I knew what I was going to say, but I'm getting the mall show right now, so I'm gonna actually say that,
You
and
got it.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. It's a fool's dream, but I'm just gonna keep going for it. I want a live action continuation of Sabe's story with Keira Knightley, even if
Oh,
she
yeah.
still doesn't know exactly what she did in Star Wars. I'm going to hold on to that dream for the rest of my days, and I
I,
don't care if it's a
I
fool's
would love
wish.
to see it. I would love to see it.
Yeah,
I think you just have to keep Natalie Portman far away from her, and I think she might come back to Star Wars. But yeah, Sabe is the fact that and the comic line I kind of pulled off on around that time, but the idea of bringing Sabe back into the story, and
yeah,
also the way E.K. Johnston played with that character in such a wonderful way. Yeah, I think there's a lot there. So that's great. That's a great pull. The Sabe
yeah.
story. Gwen, thanks as always for calling in. Really appreciate you holding not only the flame for Star Wars animation, but for joy and fun in Star Wars.
Yeah, and also, and just want to say Happy Pride Month to everybody.
Happy Pride Month indeed. We are here. I was talking about it on the Blathering yesterday, so you can get my deeper thoughts on the importance of Pride Month beyond just clothes at Target that are no longer there. But we absolutely not only celebrate it, but welcome all those in the queer community. So thank you,
Yeah,
Gwen. We appreciate you so
yeah.
much.
Bye.
All right. Check it out. Let's go to the phones here. We got some people agreeing with Sabe, physics buddy Joe. Third. I gotta get the glasses on again. This is my eyes are just going so fast. Everybody, let's take some comments here on some of the main topics of that we got going on here today, and I'll talk a little bit about Tony Gilroy. We got a call from Eli queued up, and I'll also talk about George Aura farming here as well. Gas down on him says, although the Aftermath trilogy is complete, I think the ending left a lot to explore. I'd love to see who was in command of the Eclipse, what happened in Unknown Regions. Where is Ray Sloan? Yeah, sometimes I forget. Sometimes I forget about how they forgot about Ray Sloan because time has moved on, and that's a problem. Ray Sloan, absolutely one of my favorite characters, and if y'all were listening or watching, even Collider Jedi Council back in the day, just my love for that character and love for the possibilities of more stories with her. I'm right there with you guys. I think that's a great pull. We've seen, other characters, Cobb Vanth and other little story points from Chuck's Aftermath series kind of get pulled forward. I'd love to see more with Ray Sloan. Sending love out to our friend Derek the Dark Jedi as always, but unable to call in, says Jared, but I need to say the unpopular take here. We need a Force Unleashed 3. There's clearly a benevolence to Legends, and Sev has never been more in demand. Finish Starkiller story. I couldn't even disagree with that. I couldn't even begin to disagree with that with Jared, because I don't know if that's something I want. I definitely don't think it's something I need. But I think you'd have some grassroots support for that, Jared. And I think, Sam's never going to weigh in too heavily. He's going to play things close to the vest. He's a cagey lion. But he's not going to say no to that. And we'll see how they can ever work that out. I like that answer. There we go. We also got General Cameroni says movies, Solo 2, shows, Acolyte Season 2, Resistance Season 3, books, The Lost Stars sequel. Yeah, people have been calling for the Lost Stars sequel since the books came out. I love that book. Yes. I think I forget how much that book ends on. I guess I'll say cliffhanger, but it ends with, I don't think it was intended to be a cliffhanger, but it ends in a way where you're like, please give me more of Sienna Ray. Thank Irel. I think that's forgotten. That's almost in the rearview mirror. So, General Cameroni, you're bringing it back to forefront. Resistance Season 3, I think that they ended it in a nice package in a way. Just more of those characters, and more will peep it. Acolyte and Solo 2 are going to come up again. I'm sure Neil Han stock as well. For me, Solo's the biggest unfinished story. The way the movie ended left so many questions to where the next one would go, potentially go. Yeah, and stuff Kasdan came out and said, this could have led to the criminal underworld stuff. And, we're getting a little of that with Maul, but it's now before that time, and we'll get answers about how we got there. But the answers going forward is something that is absolutely something I'd like to see. I know there's been some recent interviews with Emilia Clarke that definitely made it seem like Star Wars was not in her future. So, we'll wait. We'll continue to make Solo 2 happen. And shout out to the Resistance broadcast as always for that. Third String Star says, can't call in today, but I can't wait for a sequel to for the Acolyte someday. Thought it was just getting good. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about the Acolyte. I want more. In short, I want more. I do think it was a very flawed series. There's larger issues I think I have with some of the execution of that series. But I think it asked so many wonderful questions and also challenging questions, and it didn't get a chance to answer them. So the show not only feels complete in terms of the story, it just feels incomplete in what they were trying to say. And I think some of it was taken wrong, and it kind of, I got a little bee in my bonnet about some of the stuff that people took away from that show. So I would have liked the show to continue just on that, but then also the characters. We'll talk more about that. I'm sure people will call in. Detective McCarcel is going to where I was going to go. It's a cliche at this point. We have 30-year gap, a 30-year gap of Luke Skywalker story to tell. Yes, some tales of Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker and Laura Santeca go searching the galaxy for things was my original thought in like 2015. Not like original to just me, but it was like where I first went after Force Awakens. So let's still do it. So give me some tales of Luke Skywalker. Let's take a call from our buddy Eli. Eli checking in here today. How are you, my friend? And don't forget, you got to say something nice about Chopper.
My official statement about Chopper is whoop, 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 duck, 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 duck.
Excellent. That is excellent, Chopper. Since
I was
Dave Filoni's busy.
Dave's busy. I'm doing Chopper. My God, I'd hate that. I feel like I do. I feel like I do a middling Chopper at best. No, I was thinking about the unfinished stories, and somebody already mentioned in the comments. But to me, it's so simple to me. And look, the obvious answer is the Acolyte Season 2 for me. Sure. But I'm gonna go past the obvious answer.
Okay.
And there's another answer, and it's Resistance Season 3.
Okay.
Star Wars Resistance ended on a note, in my opinion, that was fine. It was good. I love that series. I think it ended on a good note for those characters.
Yep.
But what I don't think it ended on a great note for, and I remember Alex Damon talking about this in his review at the time, was where's the galaxy at? And of course, I want to acknowledge that the issue with a lot of the production of Resistance, and this is just something they had to deal with, was that it was being produced at the same time as Rise of Skywalker. So the writers of Rise of Skywalker were figuring out the end of the sequel trilogy as the writers of Resistance were barreling towards Rise of Skywalker. Now that we have that, though,
Okay. Yeah.
and that we know, I believe Rise of Skywalker novelization confirmed that the Fireball Yeager ship was at the Battle of Exegol.
Yep.
I would love to see more integration, not only with the Rise of Skywalker, and I'd love to see like Exegol from their perspective.
Sure.
But also one of my other biggest pet peeves of the show is that for an animated series, it did remarkably little to connect with all of the other animated series. And I understand that too. Because,
it looks different. It feels different. It goes in other spots. I know what you mean.
Yeah. But like literally with like Rebels connected as not necessarily a sequel to the Clone Wars, but a next step from the Clone Wars at the time.
Sure.
And Resistance, I think because Dave and all the other folks in animation still want to play with those characters, not only in animation, but in live action at the time, probably wanted to say, okay, let's pump the brakes on those characters. But like, I'm pretty sure we also know that Hera and Jason were at Exegol. And like, what I'd love to see, like my first thought when I was thinking about it earlier today was like Hera and Jason meeting Kaz and Tam. And I'd love that.
Okay, here's my pitch. Here's my pitch, Eli. I don't know if we can get a Resistance season 3, but you know how TV shows do the reunion seasons or specials or episodes? You know?
Yeah.
We got a 2-part, Gilmore Girls movie. That's what I'm basing this all off, by the way. Let's bring the cast of Resistance back for a Resistance movie, a follow-up, the Resistance, the Battle of Exegol or something like that. Would you want that? Would that be okay?
Sure. I mean, that'd be great. I was also thinking in my mind a little bit, and again, maybe this is getting ambitious too, just because I know that Lucasfilm seems to be kind of cagey about this, but I'd love to like also explore with the Resistance cast like a little bit of the aftermath of Exegol. Like with like with Endor, like the implication is that the First Order after Exegol is like done. But like they're not gonna fall in one day. Like that's like I think it'll take a while to like mop up the rest of the like I think it would be really interesting to see like how fast is it? Is it as fast as from Endor to Jakku? Is it faster? What's going on with there? It doesn't need to be expansive or anything like that, but just like a little bit.
No, I love what you're pitching, and I just love the characters of Resistance, and we reviewed it on ForceCenter, and again, it was I think the conversation around the show was always that it was geared a little younger, and there's times you could definitely say, yep, that's what it was geared a little younger, but it got to some really deep themes and darker episodes, the Refugees of the War episodes, and those characters, like there's so much there that I think the show did and doesn't get credit for, and we'll continue to carry the flame for it here. And I like that. That's your answer, Eli.
Yeah, no, I've been watching a little bit of it recently, and what struck me about the show specifically is how much of because what people talked about liking about Andor so much was that it focused on these regular people of the galaxy.
Right.
And that's what Resistance was doing too.
Absolutely.
Resistance was also focusing on these people, like the whole idea of like Tam with her arc of like basically being recruited into the First Order via ignorance and naivete.
Yeah.
Not like necessarily belief in any of the ideologies, but like that she didn't grow up with the Empire, so she was naive as to what fascism actually meant. Like that's really fascinating stuff.
And really deep, and and just the First Order coming to the Colossus and how it bullied its way in, and the stuff with Tordoza and her dad, and her mom. I mean, there's so much stuff there that again, it reached far beyond this is just a kids cartoon. And unfortunately, that once that kind of gets tagged onto something, people don't want to peel that off. But we'll continue to talk about it. And I agree with what David Mackay said. He says Resistance art style and characters would have been perfect for a racing game. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give me a Griff. Yeah. Can I play Griff Halloran on a racing game? Let's do that.
I think knowing just the energy of all those characters, I think I'd go towards Bo Keevil, who's Dave's Keldor character.
Yep. Love that. Eli, thanks for calling in. I appreciate you. Great answer.
I want to say one more thing. Just as you referenced earlier, I also stan O'Peepit.
Oh, Peepits. Yeah.
OP
We could
Bit's
do
great.
an hour.
OP
We could do an
Bit's
hour.
fantastic.
The greatest runner in terms of a joke in Star Wars history.
Truly.
I think so. Thank you, Eli. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, Eli calling in. We have another call queued up here in a moment from Jedi James. You want to call into the show? This is like our little ForceCenter radio show on a Friday. Call on in here by being a Patreon supporter. The fresh link, goes up every week. You can call in and share your thoughts on anything today. It's kind of open forum, but I do want to hear what stories you want to hear. A lot of people agreeing with the resistance takes there. So I am excited to see that as well. And then a little bit of some of the other stuff going on in the Star Wars world this week. Tony Gilroy was over at the Peabodys accepting an award on behalf of Andor. And he gave this speech. I'm just going to read this speech here. I'm leaving, for audio listeners, I'm leaving Gilroy up on screen. So I'm not going to do a Gilroy impersonation, but just imagine he's doing this. He said this during his acceptance speech of the Peabody Award. "We spent 6 years contemplating a fascist takeover of a galaxy far, far away. 6 years thinking about what happens to ordinary beings when an authoritarian, insane, unchecked regime comes into the deal. And the show is really kind of what we learned. If you're not willing to fight for the things that you love, your family, community, your culture, your planet, your truth, freedom, there's an asshole ready to come in and take it away. We learned that bravery and sacrifice and resistance comes in all shapes and sizes, and we learned that courage is contagious." There's so much that is happening. There's so much happening. It's a fire hose of crap that you just can't get through. And here we are. There isn't a news cycle that goes by right now that doesn't contain a variety of outrages that in any other time in our history in America wouldn't be grounds for treason. Please do not stop, says Tony Gilroy. Please do not turn out the lights until we can kill this nightmare and fuck the empire. Love that from Tony Gilroy. Love that he just puts it plainly out there. And there's this narrative that goes around of, Disney put the kibosh on some of the stuff Gilroy and all the actors could say during the press tour. That's not surprising, one, and not something that I think is completely nefarious. It's also, unfortunately, good business. But Tony also explained it, too, of they also just didn't want to put the actors in those kind of tough spots where one clip out, one little reel could bury an actor, both professionally and maybe even personally, if they say the wrong thing and not thread that needle. I think that was a almost larger part of why they didn't, quote, say what they wanted during the time. But without a doubt, I think now that the show's in the rearview mirror, Tony can be more honest. I love how he framed the whole conversation around Andor and its politics around, we studied this for 6 years. We studied what happens when fascism tries to take hold, or in some cases does take hold, and this is what we learned. Andor being viewed through that scope, it's nothing new. We've discussed it here for Andor and all the other Star Wars stories. A lot of what Tony's talking about here is the core of pretty much every Star Wars story. But to look at Andor like that, to be like, hey, we studied this, and this is our test results. This is our research. This is our findings, and this is how you can defeat it. In this troubled political time, where Tony's right, this fire hose of crap is going every day. I think Andor being not just a great Star Wars story, but a analysis of how to do it. And again, I'm the first to say Bad Batch is just as political as Andor. I'll say that Solo at times and its core is as political as any other Star Wars story. Rogue One, we know it. We know it in the original trilogy is this story in a nutshell. But I think because Andor's in the spotlight, because Andor always gets the credit for being the most political, when really I think it's just the most direct. I like Tony Gilroy even more for saying it this way, and fuck the Empire indeed. So if you have any thoughts on that, you want to call into the show, go ahead and do it as well. And we got calls from Jedi James, Jordan, and Physics Buddy Joe. Appreciate that. We are going to go inside George Lucas's Museum of Narrative Art. Some stuff has been released over the last week or two. I'm showing up on the screen. The N1 Starfighter. Cockpit looks empty, but R2, or at least an astromech droid, is in there ready to take you up to the Trade Federation's main ship. This is, we're starting to get sneak peeks of what's in the museum. It's opening in September, and I think excitement is building, which is great. This is beyond, of course, just Star Wars, a Star Wars museum. And I think at times Just there's been rumblings that George himself wanted to make sure that people knew it wasn't a Star Wars museum. But as they get closer, I think they realize, where the meal ticket might be a little bit. But if that gets you in the door, I think you're going to be, as our commenter said earlier with the super chat, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised about what else is in there and the importance of narrative art and media literacy. But also, it's pretty darn cool too. Once you walk in, you see that N1 flying over you. I think that's going to be pretty cool. But the other highlight of the week, the last week and a half, was George Lucas. He's looking good these days. Look at this aura farming. Look at George. Flannel. The gone are the flannels. Or if he does have flannels, like in this next photo I'm showing, it's a little souped up. It's a little souped up. And then the shot of him leaning up against the wall like a teenage heartthrob, staring at the life-size General Grievous and General Grievous's roller ball of fury, which is huge. Because look at that. Look at that. The riser there. Look at the lift that high lift. That's the word I'm looking for. That high lift is pretty sizable. And that Grievous, that's going to be massive. God, I'd pay an extra $10 to sit in Grievous's lap. But anyways, the highlight is George. Look at George. And Dad sneakers are coming back. I wish they didn't, but also at the same time, they're comfortable. There was a story this week. It was a joke of George is going to display 17,000 dad shoes at the museum. I'd be there as well. Do you have any thoughts on George Lucas aura farming? He's dropping new looks, man. And he's clearly lost weight. I know there was some thoughts of him having some health issues right around the time of Dial of Destiny. He looked. I'll say it. He looked a little wobbly on the Dial of Destiny red carpet. And there are certain realities of us human beings, and the end we all face. And it's hard to look at that and go, God, there's George. But he's looking so good now. He is looking so good. He's putting all of his energy in this museum. And I truly think what he's doing in that museum is more important than even when he started building the museum or trying to get it built in Chicago, San Francisco, and then finally LA. Because more and more you just see people missing the point of art, even people who are fans of it. That's what I've learned a lot, debating on movie shows and going on other podcasts last month or so. That is still a problem of people not being able to understand that this fun stuff we watch, some of it has meaning. Some of it is pretty clear, but it's just fluff, the rest of it, when all art is political, all art makes a political choice, and all art has something to say, and George Lucas understands that. I can't wait for this museum. So there you go, some thoughts to talk in, and let's go ahead and let's take some calls and see where you want to go. Jedi James, check it in. Jedi James, how you doing, and what are your thoughts on our character of the day, Chopper?
One, I'm doing pretty good. Two, I hope I look near as snazzy as George Lucas when I get to his age. I'm half convinced I became a flannel wearer just because of him.
You rocked the flannel out in the public? Did you get the George Lucas flannel at the convention?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
Well,
unfortunately.
Maybe at the museum they'll sell some in the gift shop.
Yeah, gift shop. Why not? Come on. It's perfect. And as far as Chopper goes, what cannot be said about Chopper? I'll say this much. When I first saw him all those years ago, he was to me, and we didn't know anything about him, he was the droid with arms. That's what I originally thought of him. And I was like, wow, astromechs have arms like that? That's strict. That's a weird new. Now he is to me the grumpy, cantankerous, cussing droid with hidden battle scars and hidden deep in his metal plate a little bit of heart, because I will still not forget when Kanan went missing and he went in Kanan's room and
absolutely.
I love Chopper. I just hope I would. I don't know if he'd be my friend if in real life. I don't know if he'd like me, but I love him. I love Chopper.
Yeah, let's think. He gives you such a curmudgeon. Even if you earn some kind of grumbled respect from him, that's enough of a victory for you there. But no, well said on Chopper. And that heart, that scene in front of the Y-wing, all that stuff. A lot to that character. And it goes from a Macquarie concept kind of homage to a fully functional character. Great stuff, Jedi James. But what Star Wars stories do you want to see continue? Where do you want to go today?
I mean, so many people have already said so many great choices, but I have to go with my heart. And the thing is, I don't know if people would consider this an unfinished story, but by my heart, it certainly is unfinished. And it's just seeing the journey of the Jedi Order fully restored. It's something I've even mentioned in questions on ForceCenter before, but it's just, I always go back to how I felt when I was a kid watching Return of the Jedi. But again, we know the statues go down, the fireworks are there, and I think about Luke saying, "I'm a Jedi like my father before me," and I always was like, "Oh my gosh, I'd love to see the Jedi Order back in the thousands again, back being protectors of light and life again." And obviously, as they went on with the new canon, they chose to do it a little differently, which I do support. I love me the sequel trilogy. I love me so many stories we've gotten, but I've been missing it, Ken. I've been missing. Dare I make this comment around you? I've been missing the Legends days where dare I say it, where they did show the Jedi Order steadily grow. And again, I'm more than okay with differences in storytelling. I very much love what we've gotten, but I'm very much ready for it. I'm ready to see that the work of generations have a victory in that regard. And again, I hope that's what we get with that potential new Jedi Order movie. If it comes out, I hope it does, and stories in the future. But I've definitely been ready for this one for a long time. And unfortunately, I have to wait a little bit longer, but I hope we get it one day.
I think that's a great answer, because it's not, it seems maybe on the surface like this high concept answer to this simple question, but I think you're right. I think one of the biggest unanswered, and we say unfinished, but unanswered or unaddressed stories is, I think, the Jedi Order growing and regrowing in two parts. Luke and what happened with him. We have some answers. We have some thoughts. We know maybe now the planet. We know the schools. We have the comic series that shows the more details of what happened with Ben and all that stuff. But we don't have a lot of the in-between years. And then now going forward with Rey, Finn, any of the characters. Jedi are central to Star Wars. They always will be. And as, Mandalorian Grogu, a film that I think didn't necessarily need to deal with the Jedi. Starfighter maybe, I don't know. There's maybe a lightsaber fight that Tom Cruise filmed or whatever the hell's going on with that. But I'm not expecting that to do any heavy lifting. But going forward with the Kinberg trilogy, if we do get that Rey film, Mangold would go back. But any story going forward, we're going to have to figure out what becomes or what does need to happen with the Jedi Order. So I think that's a great answer, Jedi James. I think that's a good answer.
Thank you. I just very much see how they grow. What direction do we choose to take them? I think it's full of wonderful possibilities. And yes, that certainly does include Luke's 30-year journey, as Detective McCarsell said. We have plenty of time to see some great victories, because his one moment of weakness is not his whole career, and may people certainly remember that. And he chose to grow beyond that moment of weakness, which I still personally get tears in my eyes from all the time.
I agree. Well, that's a great answer, Jedi James. Appreciate that, and I hope for you to be able to continue to farm your own aura in the way George Lucas is, and hopefully get a new flannel shirt soon, so you can show it off.
Very likely. I'm only 27. I have a few years to go before his age, but I'm always hoping. I'm always hoping, like, George, can I just rock it like you, please? I love that.
He's got it. Love it. Thank you, Jedi James, for calling in. All right, some answers in chat. We got a call from Jordan. We got a call from Physics Buddy Joe. You're watching ForceCenter now. I'm Ken Napzok here today, hanging out with you. It's our little Friday get together. And some good more comments in there. John Carroll saying maybe not an unfinished story per se, but I want to know what happened on Mandalore when Obi-Wan was still a Padawan. There's that stuff. And I like John saying too, hey, put to bed that whole theory that Corky is Obi-Wan's kid. And Physics Buddy Joe says, you mean to confirm? The Corky is Obi-Wan's son thing it's out there still, right? Yeah, this is something that Satine, Kreese, and Obi-Wan, young Obi-Wan series could maybe answer or wipe away. I don't know, but it'd be fun. Some days I don't acknowledge it. Some days I'm like, I think Corky's his kid. There you go. Let's take a call from Jordan D right now. Jordan, how you doing, my friend?
What's up, Ken? I'm doing well.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few topics that are on the docket for today.
Well, the first
one.
I
just wanted to, I was nervous for it because, Chopper is not necessarily my favorite, but I'm supposed to say something really nice about him. Yeah. I just like, BB-8 a little bit more. I like Two Boots recently so much. Chopper is colorful. I like his orange striping. I believe he's in Rogue One. People can blast me if I'm wrong about that. Good for him for being in Rogue One.
He's in Rogue One. Yeah, absolutely. He rolls by. There you
Yeah.
go. That's my whole thing with the character of the day is you have to say something nice because I'm forcing you all to. If you don't like the character, we're gonna dig to find at least one thing, and I think you did. And BB-8 won't feel like you turned on him.
Yeah.
What else is on your mind? What stories you want finished? Where are you going today?
For sure. The one that kind of struck me was about the unfinished stories. I wanted to shout out the Acolyte just one more time because I don't feel like it got enough credit for exploring the dark side of what happens when a master is so obsessed with having an apprentice that he does something truly terrible, and kind of exploring the gray area of that was so powerful. Some of the best lightsaber choreography I've ever seen in my life.
Love the fights. Yep.
Manny Jacinto is a movie star, and we're lucky to have him in Star Wars, and we would be so lucky to see him return, as well as Osha and just the hunt for the stranger. So bring that on for sure.
I'm with you. Mother Anastasia is one of my favorite characters in modern Star Wars too. I think she's just absolutely intriguing. Can fit into so many other stories, but definitely in a continuation of this one. How would all right? Let's play a little fantasy booking here. Let's say Leslie and Dave get a meet a Bob's Big Boy up the street from Disney, LA, and they talk it out. What would you want? How would you want this to go forward? Just another season? Give them a movie. How would you want it?
Yeah, I think the limited series idea is kind of cool, or Disney Plus special presentation to kind of wrap some loose ends up, because they seem hesitant to invest in too many ongoing seasons, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The real one that I wanted to kind of call out, I don't know if it counts as much as a continuation because we haven't started this particular animated series yet, but the whole backstory of the sequel trilogy in animated form for Ben Solo, Snoke, Luke, and just something I always thought watching the sequels for years now is, for me personally, a lot of the most interesting things that happen in that story or are hanging around that story happened like roughly 10 years before it started. And I always wanted more flashbacks in those films. I know that's not what we got, and I've come to really like what we got. But those performances, they tell a story. They harken back to this past between parents and children and masters and apprentices and seduction and everything gone wrong with Ben. I wonder if Dave Filoni, cementing himself as the leader now, as the CEO and creative head, will want to kind of take ownership of that sequel era in an eventual animated series that's hopefully striking the same beautiful tone as Shadow Lord. Maybe we get some of those painterly backdrops. Maybe we see all of those characters fleshed out more. So that's just something I would love to see.
I think that's a big, ambitious pitch, and I love it. And I think it's a fertile ground to mine. Indeed, I think I don't think it would be a difficult sell, because obviously there'd be a lot of Star Wars fans happy with it. But I think it might be, I would fear that it would be overwhelming for a showrunner to answer all these questions. So maybe if we put a finer point on something specific, I think I'd be for that. But to your point, it is the Clone Wars to the prequels kind of scenario, and that the Clone Wars saved the prequels conversation can go a little bit too far for me to agree with. But I love what the Clone Wars did, which is expanded. I think expanded is the word, not fixed, not was better than. So yeah, if we can give me a series or stories as you're describing that will expand on ideas that are there, because you're right. I like that what you said about the 10 years. About the 10 years before Force Awakens is where the chapters seem to switch in the Star Wars story with what was post Return of the Jedi and then what became pre-Force Awakens. So let's do it. Let's get right in there.
And just like we now read into these little expressions on Anakin's face or Ewan McGregor's performance in the prequels, and we feel that whole relationship that was fleshed out in the Clone Wars. I think the performances in the sequels, the looks on their faces, Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, there's such Harrison Ford as Han, looking back on the way he kind of feels like he wasn't there enough as a dad, or he ducked out when things got tough,
Right.
If that was fleshed out in certain ways, I want to watch those films again. And I want to feel everything in that rich backstory, because the performances are just so strong.
I agree. That's a great answer. Good answer. And you said something nice about Chopper. Your work here is good and done today. Jordan, thank you for calling in. Appreciate you.
Of course, Ken. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with all of me. We got a call from physics buddy Joe lined up here as well. Thank you all for playing along today. Joe Carroll says, hey, Chopper isn't my favorite droid. That would be BD1. But if I was a fighter going for a Star Destroyer or a Planet Killer, Chop is the one I would want in my astromech socket. I think that's a great answer as well. Let's take a call from our buddy physics buddy Joe, calling from the Shadows today. I love the display behind you. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well.
Good, man. All right. Lay it on me. Say something nice about Chop.
Well, I mean, who wouldn't be lucky to have Chopper as your buddy who holds you accountable, will smack you around a little bit when you do something wrong,
Yeah,
and will always have your back.
you got your back. He's got. There's no way around it. Chopper's there for you. He might not be there in the way you want or expect, but he'll be there. He'll be there. No, great answer.
Exactly.
All right, where do you want to go? What stories, characters? What is unfinished, or would you like to have continue in your mind?
So where I really wanted to go is I've been wanting this for a really long time, especially right after watching Kenobi. I think this would be perfect to be set a year or two after Kenobi.
Okay.
There is a giant pool of guests that could come in. So I would probably put this as some kind of like a serialized show rather than a movie or something like that.
Yeah.
But every episode could bring in guest roles, but it would be basically a story of the path.
The path.
Of
Okay.
the way
Yeah.
of how different the Jedi escaped and how they moved through the path. And you have Kenobi, you have Cal Kestis and that whole crew. You have Omega, the Bad Batch could show up, Asajj Ventress, Quinlan Voss.
Right.
Just a whole slew of characters that we could have coming in and making an appearance on there. Maybe there'd be new characters that would be the core of the show that would be the consistent when we see through it. But I would just love to see the path and how all these characters work together to protect their own, get them away from danger in the era of the Empire.
I love that answer. I think, when you mentioned Asajj Ventress, it reminds me that, Nika Futterman was like, oh yeah, there's going to be more stories coming. And I think, we haven't got those stories yet, not counting the Tales of stuff, which was definitely seemed to be setting up something more, but that's just for that character. But I think from that character, you can get to where a lot of people want to go with the path. It's just, to me, the path and what they have set up for it already is too big of a key part of this chapter of the Star Wars saga to not explore, right? To not just at least want to explore. I've always, while I understand the surface joke that people make about, oh, another Jedi that survived, that just makes sense to me that some Jedi will survive. But even what makes sense more to me is that the Force itself was not squished and swapped away by the Palpatine invaders as much as I'd like to. So Force and Force-sensitive individuals would still be there. And what do you do with that? And how do you live with that? And how do you hide it? And how do you want to hide it? How do you want to get away? And all that could fuel the story of the path. So that's a good answer. And I like how you're presenting it. You almost present it like it sounds like an episode of Love Boat, where you're going to have some guest stars every week.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think you wouldn't necessarily need to have Asajj Ventress be the main character through the whole thing, but having her show up when it's appropriate for her, and having Kenobi show up when it's appropriate for him, and you can explore the whole galaxy, and it could be a big show without having to take Kenobi away from Luke. And all those things. I think it'd be super fun.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. Be good. Well, the path coming soon to a network television Friday night. Get Captain Stubing on it. Physics buddy Joe, I appreciate you calling in, and I love seeing more of your display. Even a lot of red lights in there. Are you celebrating just the Empire on that side? Do you have a light side in the back there?
It's all over. This whole room is all Star Wars, so it's a little bit of everything everywhere. The Rebel helmet's over on that wall.
Okay, that's good. I just you're representing all sides. I understand.
It's all around.
All right, I thank you, and thank you also for calling in and participating over on the Blathering with us over there. So thank you for calling in today.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, we're almost out of here, my friends. If you want to call in, you got a few more minutes. Phone lines will be open and answer any of the Star Wars stories that you want finished. And again, it could just be characters and plot lines, or even silly little things. You know, Judge Vulcan Nerd says Joe is the Joe is the Bendu. He is celebrating things right in the middle there. So yeah, there we go. Oh, Vulcan Nerd, what is he talking about? Cal Kestis and Devin, probably no more than a year or two apart age-wise. Yeah. I can see that. It's Ben, it's absolutely a compliment, physics buddy Joe. You are the Bendu. You're in the middle. You defeat Thrawn, at least temporarily. So I think that's been it. We're winding down today. It's a shorter episode of ForceCenter now. Justin will be back with us next week. We got the news. We got everything coming to you next week as we move past the big release of 2026. There's still a lot to discuss in The Mandalorian Grogu, and don't worry, we're going to be discussing that here on the channel. We're looking forward to the Vision spinoff series. But dive deep with us on Star Wars as we all get ready for 2027. That's something we are planning to do. So I appreciate you all. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, whether later or even now, like the video. Later on, leave a comment. Let us know you're part of the watch crew, and those on the podcast feed. Thanks for listening there. Don't forget, on the podcast feed, every Sunday we re-release our episodes of Data Bank Brawl. If you're watching on YouTube, there's links down below to Joseph's YouTube channel. You can watch his short films and help support his filmmaking endeavors over there. Go to my website, Napzok.com. And don't forget to follow Jennifer Landa. She's putting out some great reels on Instagram. The one on Grogu and Grogu's manners of communication, as seen in Mandalorian Grogu, is spectacular. So appreciate all of you hanging out with me here today. We will do it again. We'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.